Alrighty, in the last video lesson for this chapter, we're going to be talking about aromatic compounds. The easiest way to think about an aromatic compound is that it's going to have alternating double and triple bonds in such a way that the behavior of these is a little bit different. They're all going to have sp2 hybridization in every single one of these carbons that go around this ring. And we did talk about hybridization in earlier chapters. The thing is that with this, because each carbon in the ring has sp2 hybridization, the bonds can actually almost kind of flip back and forth between their locations. So you can see here I have them in one location and here I have them in the other location. And the way that these interact with each other, it's almost as if each carbon really has a bond and a half in place of a double bond on one side and a single bond on the other. This particular compound is C6H6, which you can see that there's going to be a hydrogen on each one of these carbons, and it is called benzene. Benzene is a compound that is used all the time in organic chemistry. It is a very non-polar molecule, and in fact, I'll show my age here, but in fact, when I was taking organic chemistry, a lot of the compounds that you use are really kind of sticky and gross. And so we used to actually use benzene to get some of that stuff off of our hands when we were in lab. That was before we knew how carcinogenic it was. And so now I just shudder when I realize, I just used to dump benzene on my hands freely. I'm sure they don't do that anymore, but benzene is a very carcinogenic compound, but it is also a very useful compound because of its other properties. Because each one of these are called resonance structures, and so it flips back and forth between these two. Like I said, it actually has like a bond and a half. So the way that this compound is often drawn is that we just draw a hexagon and we actually put a circle in the middle, and it means the same thing as either one of these guys, okay? So it's you don't have this one or this one, you actually have a combination, and that's why the circle is in there. So when you name these, the double bond position doesn't matter, because if we name it as a benzene group, then I don't have to worry about trying to name it as a cyclohexatriene, because I name it as a benzene. So if I have something that looks like this, here I have an ethyl group hanging off of one of them. And so this is going to be called simply ethylbenzene. If I have two groups, you will have to give the numbers for them so that you know how far apart they are. So here I have two methyl groups hanging off of adjacent carbons. So this is going to be 1,2-dimethylbenzene. Okay, so I'm still going to use that prefix di since I've got two of them. Here I have both an ethyl group and a methyl group. And so I'm going to number it so that I give them the lowest possible numbers. Ethyl, when I name it, is going to come first. So here I'm going to name this one as 1-ethyl 3-methylbenzene. And down here, I've got two ethyl groups hanging off of it, and so they're on the number 1 and the number 4. So this is going to be 1,4-diethylbenzene. When you get into organic chemistry, you will also find that sometimes chemists will use shortcuts for some of these. If they have the same group in adjacent positions, they'll call this O for ortho dimethylbenzene. If they were on the 1 and the 3, they would call it meta. If it's on the 1 and the 4, they call it para. So you may run across that. I'm not going to expect you to know that right now. You will need to know that when you get into advanced chemistry later on, assuming that you take it in college, but you don't need to worry about it right now. Just worry right now on getting things in alphabetical order and on using the lowest possible numbers. It is also possible, in place of naming this as a benzene, sometimes I can name that benzene ring as a group hanging off of another parent chain. And so here I have 1, 2, 3, a parent chain of 3, which is going to be a propane. And I actually have 2 benzene groups hanging off of it. And so if they're hanging off, I call it a phenyl group, P-H-E-N-Y-L. So the way that I would name this compound is going to be 1, 3 hyphen diphenyl propane. Okay, so there's the di, and then the phenyl is what I'm using as the substituent name for it. Alrighty? So if you're either going to name them as a benzene, or if you're going to name it as a substituent group, you're going to name it as a phenyl group. Okay? So that was short and sweet, wasn't it? All right, so much for your aromatics.